And I would like to introduce and turn it over to our presenter today, Joshua Becker. Joshua is an assistant professor at the School of Management at University College of London, and today he is zooming in and joining us from the UK. In his role, he teaches and researches topics including group decision-making and negotiation. He received his PhD in communication from the University of Pennsylvania and completed a postdoctoral fellowship with the Kellogg School of Management. Prior to graduate school, he worked professionally in mediation and conflict resolution. He worked with our very own Carolyn Stillwell. He also did some training and coaching and now serves as a pro bono mediator and trainer. His research has been published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences and Harvard Business Review. He is passionate about community building. So we are very, very grateful to Joshua for being here today and sharing his time with us. Joshua, for everyone, during the session today, I'll be monitoring the chat and your raised hands. So I think Joshua wants this to be a real interactive session. So feel free to have questions. And with that, Joshua, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. And I'm so very happy to be here. And I'll just add, for my Thanksgiving, I was grateful that I got to spend it with a group. I mean, last year it was just me and my wife doing Thanksgiving by ourselves. I come from a very large family of where Thanksgiving was like 25 people. So I was very grateful. I didn't get to come back to the States for Thanksgiving, but I did get to have dinner with a few friends in London, which I'm also grateful to have met some people since being here. And I'm grateful that the National Health Service gives out lots and lots of take-home COVID tests because we are very careful. So the only way we'll let people in our house is if they take a test in the lobby. So, okay. It was really nice to hear everybody else's stories, just a little bit of America for me and no British accents in the room, which is always nice. Okay, so I'm gonna jump into things, and let me just get my slides up here. So hopefully you're all now seeing just the PowerPoint slides, is that right? Yep, okay, and also I'm trying something, I've got a little bit of a new sound setup here, so let me know if I'm causing any kind of echoes or feedback. Did you hear any echoes earlier when you were talking, Gail, when we were just chatting? Okay.
Nope, it sounds good.
Great, okay, as Gail mentioned, my name is Joshua Becker. I'm an assistant professor at the University College London School of Management. I did have a slide on my background, which she's already given, but just the timeline. In my first 3 years out of college, I worked in community mediation. Then I moved to Philadelphia just to be near family, and leaving community mediation was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I absolutely loved the work, and then I worked in customer service, which was boring enough that I decided to go pursue a PhD in communication. I then did a postdoc, and now here I am in London researching group decision-making and teaching negotiation. All right, we already got all that. So I'll proceed along to the good stuff. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start us right off with a role play today just to kind of set the mindset, and then we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about talking. So in case anybody missed the topic for today, what I'm going to talk about today is structured communication, a particular approach to reflective listening. For those of you who are experienced mediators, I don't expect any of this stuff to be new to you, or maybe some of it will be new, but it all should sound at least vaguely familiar. Hopefully, you'll at least maybe get a new perspective on it, or at the very least, you'll get a chance to practice some things that you already use. I'll do my best to monitor the chat, but if you've got a question, we here in business schools and management schools, we just interrupt. We don't wait till the end to take questions, so just use that little raise hand icon and just jump right in. I'll maybe wait till the end of my sentence, and then I'll turn the floor over to you. And then, I've got a couple exercises and a bit of discussion today. I don't like to talk too much, and then I believe Gail also shared, I have put all my lectures and stuff on YouTube, or at least the ones pertaining to conflict resolution. So that's all freely available. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to start right in with a role play today. I'm going to give you 2 roles. Now, don't go to these URLs yet. I'm going to give you some instructions on them. What I have to do first, if I can get Zoom to give me the controls back, I'm going to create some breakout rooms. Okay, I see that most people have put their hands up. So if you're still reading, I'm going to give you another minute, but I'm going to pause now to just introduce the actual activity. So those of you with your hands up, or all of you in a few minutes, you've had a chance to read your role, so you get the general gist of it. I am the owner of the remaining ugly oranges. So you've read your roles. I'm going to give you about 6 minutes, so just over 5 minutes, to talk with there's another person who also wants the oranges. I'm strictly interested in making a profit. I know you all may have some good causes that you really care about, but I don't care about that. I want to make a profit. I'm going to sell the ugly oranges to the highest bidder, okay? So what I want you to do is spend just over 5 minutes talking with the other person in your breakout group who also wants those ugly oranges, and I want you to come to me with a deal, okay? I want you to figure out however you're going to divide it up, or who's going to purchase, or how much you're going to offer, whatever it is, you're going to let me know at the end. And you're going to do that by sending me a Zoom chat. And I want you to put yourself in the mindset of a negotiator. We're not mediators right now. You represent your side. You represent your issue. What's most important is solving your problems. And you saw from the role that you're not being selfish. These are really important altruistic problems. So we're negotiators right now. We're not mediators, okay? So what I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to put you all in breakout groups. And if this all worked, you're going to be with someone who had a different role than you. And I'm going to give you just over 5 minutes. This is a really quick activity. Linda will loop you in a minute. I'm going to give you just over 5 minutes to talk this through. And then I'm going to bring you all back. So you're going to have to make it fast. You're going to have to make it quick. And you need to reach a deal. And you need to decide who's going to get the oranges. And just remember, I'm going to give them to whoever pays the most. Okay. So at this time, I'm going to open the rooms. So please send in the chat, just type in the chat how your session turned out if you had enough time to reach agreement. You can either send it directly to me if you know how, or you can just chat it to everyone. Doesn't really matter. So as you're typing, I want to start asking about some of these. So, okay, so Nancy, you said you're going to combine your efforts into a single bid and split the oranges.
Oh.
So that means you'll end up with how many oranges, Nancy?
1,500 is half of 3,000, isn't it?
And is 1,500 oranges enough for you?
That's not desirable, but we had to somehow come up with something.
Okay, a lot of people saying they'll split the oranges. A lot of people saying they're going to offer 400,000. Okay. Okay. Did anybody find a solution that gets everybody what they needed? Yeah, Craig, you're thumbs upping. You did?
I think so. We didn't get down to the details, but I mean, we have to buy, basically, depending on what the supplier is willing to do, we pay him as little as we can, and then get all the oranges somewhere, and then have them split up between the juice and the rind, and I get the juice, and one of us gets the juice, the other gets the rinds.
So did anybody pick up, so who picked up on this, the juice versus the rind?
Not me.
No.
Yeah, okay.
No.
So Craig, can you explain what you meant by that? We've got a lot of people who are saying, I'm going to end up with half the oranges, which is not really enough. What do you mean about the juice and the rind?
Well, for the pharmaceutical medical stuff, I just need the juice from these oranges, but I really need juice from all 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
And the other person, Elaine, in this case, turned out she only needed the rinds, but she wants all 3,000 orange rinds.
So we agreed that we would approach Mr. Cardoza to talk about his capability to process the oranges and the price he would require to get me the juice or get me the rinds and give Craig the juice for the lowest price.
And that's where you're finding it. So I set you up a little bit. I said, really focus on your side and what you want. Pretend you're one of my MBA students, right? I put you in this positional place of really just trying to get those oranges for your needs. But if you get beyond what you're claiming, which is this pile of oranges, and start getting into what is it that you really need from it? Why do you need these oranges? You can start to unpack, oh, we need different parts of the orange, at which point it becomes very straightforward to combine your efforts and split up the oranges. So this is obviously just, a simple little activity, but I wanted to start with this to put us into this headspace of getting beyond the claim, beyond what we'll call the positional statement, and get into the interests underlying the position. So in this case, the oranges, I want the oranges, that's the positional statement, and the interest is, why do you need it? It's because I need the juice, or because I need the rind. Okay, so for the rest of our 39 minutes together, we're going to be talking about talking, which is going to say we're just going to be talking about strategies, whether you're a negotiator or whether you're a mediator, to move people beyond those positions into what they want. And I think for me, it's really remarkable that these same principles apply to both negotiation and mediating. If I'm a negotiator, I can ask, help me understand, what is it that you really, why are these oranges so important to you? Those kinds of questions will bring out things like, oh, well, we need the rind. And then as a negotiator, I can say, oh, well, we need the juice, right? So this is what we call, expanding the pie, creating value, moving people past value claiming into value creation. So I just want to sort of briefly talk about a sort of general approach to communication. This is what I call communicating with intent. Why are you saying what you're saying? Go ahead, Joan.
Well, I just wonder what happens when it isn't the juice or the rind. It is the whole orange that I need.
There are going to be times, so there's actually, when we're teaching negotiation, we talk about 3 different types of issues. So sometimes they're compatible, which means we literally want the same thing. Sometimes they're integrative, which means we can dovetail our interests. That's where when you want one thing and I want another, we can match them together like the juice and the rind. And sometimes they are truly distributive. So not every case is going to be this nice, beautiful, you need the juice, I need the rind type of case. But the goal is at very least to find those integrative opportunities, those collaborative opportunities where they exist. Because it's so often that we're leaving value on the table. We got a room full of mediators here and only a handful of people, and this is because I set you up, right? I put you in this combative mindset, but it's not easy to find those. So the goal is to look for those collaborative opportunities where they exist. So I want to back up a little bit. We're going to get back to that, but I want to back up a little bit and just ask, why are you talking? So skill number 1 is not a thing you do. It's just an approach to communication mindset. So there are 3 basic types of communication that I want to focus on. One is listening. So I am trying to understand you, and listening can be a very active thing, so I'm sure you all know as mediators. Another type of communication is explaining, and this is the flip side of listening. So listening is I'm trying to understand you. Explaining is you trying to understand me. And the third type of communication I want to highlight is persuading, right? Persuading, I just want to really highlight, is different from explaining. Explaining is I want to be understood. Persuading is I want to change your mind, okay? So what we're not trying to do as mediators is persuasion. So we're not trying to change people's mind. And I'm not just talking about mediators. I'm going to say 95% of the time as people, as negotiators, I'm not trying to persuade. I'm also not trying to solve your problems. I'm trying to understand your problems. I'm trying to have you understand my problems. People, as a rule, spend so much time in problem solving. They spend so much time in persuading that they're not getting to this interest-based discussion. I'm not going to tell you there's never a time for persuasion. I'm not going to tell you there's never a time for problem solving. I'm just going to tell you, you don't really need to worry about it. It comes so naturally to us to persuade. It comes so naturally to us to try to solve problems that you don't need to try to do it. If you focus on listening and explaining, then these other two things are going to take care of themselves, right? Okay, so what I really want you to do, not just as mediators, not just as negotiators, but as human beings in life, I want you to focus on listening, so trying to understand the other person, and explaining or trying to be understood. Okay. So what I want to do now is talk about another, I'm going to go through a couple quick skills and then we're going to get to some actual practice. I want to talk now about another quick little skill. We don't have to practice this too much, but it's just something I want you to think about, which is perspective taking. This is not something we do naturally. So this goes along with that listening. This is the first step to listening, in fact. Why are they saying what they're saying? Now, this is not just a goal. This is an actual skill. So if you're trying to take someone's perspective, what you can do is you can write down this little chart, and you can take them and yourself, and you can say, what do they think about themselves? So, you know, if I'm talking to Craig and we're arguing about these oranges, I'm going to say, what does Craig think about Craig? What does Craig think about me? What do I think about Craig? And what do I think about me? So if you fill out this chart, and I know I'm breezing through these couple things because I really want to spend most of our time digging into some very specific things. Just want to kind of give you a taste of the broad approach I take to communication. Starting off with this perspective taking is going to be incredibly valuable. And it's what's baked into everything else I'm going to talk about today. Okay, so that was skill number 2, perspective taking. When you're doing this, I want you to be generous, right? Really, like, be generous with the people around you. Seeing a chat message. Okay, I want you to be generous. I just want to underline that one more time. Please be generous. Patience is powerful. Give people the benefit of the doubt. And as we saw in this ugly oranges example, and as I'm sure you've seen as mediators, helping other people, helping your peers helps you. It comes back. I mean, you know, a lot of life is like, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, and then transparency builds trust. So giving information is a great way to get information, okay? So that's just a couple notes on perspective taking. All right, I'm now going to skip skill number 3, and I'm going to jump ahead to skill number 4. I'll come back to skill number 3 in a minute. But before I do that, I want to talk about something I call structured communication. And this is actually basically adapted from the approach of Community Mediation Maryland, where I first learned to mediate. So structured communication is about breaking down everything that happens in conversation, everything people say, everything you were saying about the oranges and the diseases and, you know, the cloud of nuclear fallout or chemical weapons rather off the coast of Los Angeles into 5 things. There are 5 elements of communication, maybe more, but these are the 5 main ones. One of them is feelings or emotions, right? This is anything that, well, not anything. These are often things that finish the sentence, I feel. But you want to be careful, because I might say something like, well, you want me to talk about feelings? Well, I feel like you're an idiot. That's not a feeling. I see some people laughing. That's not a feeling. So the trick is, these are single words or like, you know, 2-word phrases that finish the sentence, I feel. So can a couple people, feel free, just popcorn style, unmute yourselves, share some feelings. Could be how you're feeling now, doesn't have to be. Just what are some examples of feelings or emotions?
Angry.
Angry, yep, I feel angry.
Frustrated.
Yep, frustrated.
Sad.
Sad, yep.
Tense.
Tense, yep.
Anxious. Anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Lost. Yeah.
Lost, yep. Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure, I want to get that out there. To really hone in on these one-word things, not I feel like you don't understand me. It might be I feel misunderstood, but those are 2 very different things. If I say I feel misunderstood, I'm talking about me. If I say, Diane, I feel like you don't understand me. I'm talking about Diane. That is a claim. That is an argument, right? Puts us back in combative territory. Okay. So I want to talk about values or interests. Values are what's important to you. Interests, what do you need out of the situation? I can't ask you to just like name some of these because they're infinite. Values can be things like, I value responsibility. I value collaboration. I value patience or fairness. These can also be interests, like interests in the case of the oranges would be, I value the pith or the juice or the rind of the oranges. These are getting beyond what a person wants to why they want it. And then topics or issues are things you can actually make a plan about. So the topics wouldn't be something like, in the case of the oranges, the topics wouldn't be something like the disease. The topics would be the orange, the things we are here to discuss today. Topics are tricky because they seem straightforward, like, oh, we're just going to list things that we're going to make a plan about. They are by far the hardest thing to pick out of a conversation because it's really easy to get topics and values confused. We need to make a plan about respect. I want to talk about how you're going to respect me. That's really a value. So I might say, okay, so it sounds like, you respect is important to you. Where's an area that you need respect? Might say, sounds like you need to make a plan about communication. Or maybe if you're saying, well, you don't respect me, you're always showing up late to dinner. Sounds like we need to make a plan about dinner or a plan about scheduling, right? I'm not going to talk more about topics today, but I just want to highlight how sneakily tricky they are, okay? So, yeah, okay, I want to address this thing Gillian said. At Gillian's son's school, they teach them a bug and a wish. It bugs me when I wish you would. I see the value in that. These kinds of things are tricky because you end up talking about the other person, which can make them feel a little bit attacked. You want to be really careful about how you do that. So I might say, I think I like the it bugs me when part, but I would frame it a little bit differently. I would say, I feel annoyed when you show up late for dinner. That's still putting it back on me and my feelings with a little bit of a kind of neutral topic about the activity. Maybe nobody's disputing they show up late for dinner, but it's still putting the onus on me and my feelings. And you can say, I wish you would show up on time, but I think, if you really want to get at the neutral thing, which is about helping people to hear you, if I say, I wish you would show up on time, I'm talking about you, and maybe you're tired of hearing me talk about you, you're feeling attacked. You might say, timeliness is important to me. I feel annoyed when you show up late for dinner because starting on time is important to me. Or I feel annoyed when you show up late for dinner because I like to eat hot food, right? So as much as possible, you want to focus as a speaker on your own needs and interests. So just a thought about that bug and a wish thing. Okay, so this is the general concept of structured communication. Now, I've got positional statements and facts kind of floating off here on the side. I don't care about those. Those are like persuading and explaining. They're gonna find their way into the conversation. I just want to define positional statements. Positional statements are what I want. I want those 3,000 oranges to make my medicine. Or this disease is terrible. These are facts, right? They have a place in a conversation. They're gonna come up, but we want to, we don't need to spend a lot of attention on them because they're gonna come up. The other thing about facts is we may never agree about facts. And if we're never going to agree about facts, we need to find a way to move on in the conversation anyway. So positional statements, facts, they're going to come up, but when you're communicating with intent, I want you to focus on these three elements: feelings or emotions, values or interests or what's important, and topics and issues or what we need to make a plan about. Okay. So what I want to do now is a brief little exercise just to kind of practice these things. I'm going to read this aloud. You don't have to try to read it off the screen. And I'm going to invite you to pick out the feelings values, and topics. Or if you want, you can just type them right in the chat as I'm talking, okay? This is a real vent, by the way. I got a friend who works at a coaching firm to give me a bunch of vents from actual employees. So anonymized, there's nothing risky here. Okay. My manager never listens to me. We all have unreasonable workloads that require regular hours of overtime, but every time I bring it up to her, she just ends up complaining about her own workload. It's very discouraging because it feels like even if she wanted to do something about the work, she feels that she doesn't have time to care about those under her. I want to come up with solutions to these problems, but that requires even more work on top of what I can barely do now. I worry that this extra work won't go anywhere since I just don't get helpful feedback. Okay, so let's see. I see some feelings and values coming out, so let's see. I'm going to try to pull through these chats here. Let's see. Elaine's got discouraged, so that's a great feeling. Nushin pulls out needing ease, so that's an interest or value. Gail is pulling at the feeling of not listened to. I would like to reframe that a little bit as just unheard. I know it's a subtle distinction, but if I say I feel not listened to, that's still talking a little bit about the other person. I want to put as much as possible in myself. Yep, Kathy's got not heard, so that's pretty good. Elaine's picked out feeling worried. Carolyn, Christopher, I want to see if we can take yours. I love this. You're pulling out too much extra work. I'm going to pick on you a little bit. Is that a feeling, a value, or a topic? Carolyn, Christopher. Okay, maybe Carolyn's having a little sound problem, so I'll just
Nope.
give.
I'd say that I was feeling overwhelmed.
Yes.
And what did you give?
Sorry?
And you said which ones did you want me to respond to? I was trying to find the.
You said too much extra work.
I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah, so I want to try to pick out, there's actually a couple things in there. One is the feeling of overwhelmed. One is the value you can hear in there of fairness or manageable workloads. And then you've got the topic, which is workloads or scheduling. You know, that'll depend a little bit on the context. Exactly. So I see how you put that in the chat a minute later. Yeah. So we want to focus on those kind of one-word items. Yep. Let's see, other great things, needing. So empathy would be, I think, a value. Yeah, I need empathy. Communication is maybe a topic. Communication is a tricky one because it can be a topic, but also value. Remember, these values and topics are very tricky. Alexandria, this is a direct message, so I'll read it out loud. Put feeling ignored, value, my time on the job, and topics, she said better communication and some caring of others. I'm just going to say the topic is communication, and maybe some caring of others could be something like relationship, or maybe that's about communication. Okay, so this is great. These are great examples of some feelings, values, and topics in what this person said. So right now, all we're focusing on is the structure. We're decomposing these things. All right, so now we're going to move on to a skill of what we can do with this. I said I'm going to skip skill number 3. I'm going to go to skill number 4 because it's a little bit easier to talk about yourself. So skill number 4 is talking to be heard. So what we're going to do now in this skill number 4 is we are going to speak using only feelings and values. I want you to forget about topics for the moment because they're kind of tricky. So, oops. So what I want you to do is, I want you to put something in this frame. I am feeling blank, and blank is important to me. It can either be from your own perspective, a recent argument, something nice, not all feelings are ugly. It could be this vent I just had up on the screen. You can write it in the chat if you want. You can keep it to yourself if you want, totally up to you. Just wanted to put something in this format. I am feeling blank, should be one word, and blank, also one word, is important to me. This is the skill talking to be heard. We're now taking this concept of structured communication and we're using it in the way we communicate. All right. So I want you to think about something that irritates you or something that's good. Imagine that you're telling someone about that issue. I want you to think about the vent or rant behind it. That was an example. And I want you to pick out one or more, keep it simple, feeling, value, or topic, and explain the situation again. We're not going to do this in breakout groups. We're just going to do this either to ourselves or in the chat. Carolyn, Christopher, I love this. I just want to highlight what Carolyn put in there. I am feeling overwhelmed. Short and sweet. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be long. Okay, so let's see. Greta and Alexandria, I really want to ask you to put those in a sentence structure, okay? Is there anybody who's willing to get a little personal and kind of do this for everybody? You can just either raise your hand in Zoom, or anybody really comfortable with talking? Okay, Sally. So Sally, I'm going to ask you, first thing I want you to do is just give us a rant. Something on your mind lately. Keep it short, just a couple sentences. Give us a rant.
I didn't want to
Could be
rant.
political, could be with your family, whatever.
Mine was more positive.
Oh, good. Keep it positive. That's great. Tell us something that's on your mind. It could be a positive rant.
I am interested. I'm interested.
Okay.
Learning is important to me.
Oh, okay. Can you give us the rant version, the non-structured part? Just,
Okay.
yeah.
I hate it when I have to listen to people who aren't saying anything, and yet I can't stop having to listen to them.
Love that. I hate it when I have to listen to people that aren't saying anything, and then I can't stop listening to them. And then if you wouldn't mind, give us again the feeling or value in there.
In that, I'm feeling very frustrated because I'm not able to learn anything.
Okay. And then that's perfect. Yes. Well, because I'm not able to learn anything, that's a position. What's the interest there?
Interest is getting better at what I do.
Yeah, or even just learning. So it could be something like, I'm feeling frustrated and learning is important to me.
Mhm.
So we're trying to reduce this down to the simplest version possible. Is there someone else who's willing to give us a little bit of a rant or vent about something on their mind? And yeah, Carolyn, Christopher, go ahead and start with the rant. Tell us what's on your mind, Carolyn.
I'm irritated that the plows did not come down and get the snow off of my street.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that, first of all. Now, what's a feeling and or value in there? And if anybody wants to help Carolyn out, because we're all just listening, it was.
I'm irritated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm angry,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to get out of my driveway.
So how can you put that into like just one or two words? Maybe it's something about.
Irritated with the city.
It sounds like accessibility is important to you. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we want to do as speakers is maybe pause a second before we rant, or even after we rant. It doesn't really matter, and reduce it to the pithiest version possible. Carolyn, it sounds like you feel irritated and that accessibility is important to you. Or Carolyn might say, I feel irritated and accessibility is important to me. That's why I would like to talk about snow removal. Yeah, Joan, you've got your hand raised.
So when what we're feeling is irritated that the city did not do its job, so we have a focus on somebody not performing well. Do we try to avoid part of that or keep that in?
You don't really want to avoid any of the content, but you want to avoid blame language. I know you want to blame the city, but people stop listening when you blame them. I know for a fact when my wife starts blaming me about stuff, I'm not listening anymore. And when I start blaming her about stuff, she's arguing with me before I've even finished the sentence. As much as we may be right in our blame, the point here isn't to make ourselves feel good, it's to be productive. So what I'm hearing you say, Joan, is that it sounds like responsibility is important to you with regard to snow removal. Is that so? You want to reframe. You're talking about people not doing their job. Sounds like follow through is important to you. Sounds like, timeliness, depending on the exact circumstances. So you want to flip around and find that's why I want to focus on just the single words. Because if you have to pick out a single word, It forces you to strip away those positional statements and get rid of that blame language. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Let's see, you can all still see my slides. Okay, so what I want to move on now, I started with skill number 4 because it's a little easier to talk about ourselves than it is to talk about other people. But as mediators, or as people trying to understand our spouses, our coworkers, our friends, so skill number 4, speaking to be heard, that's about explaining, right? Now I want to talk about the flip side, trying to understand the person. Reflective listening is just speaking to be heard in reverse. Now, there's a lot of different kinds of reflective listening. There are kind of 4 different levels, sorry. There's summarizing, which is just giving back everything that you heard. There's paraphrasing, reducing it down to the essentials, but still using the words of the speaker. There's neutralizing, which is giving back what you heard using feelings. There's reframing, which is focusing on what they want rather than what they don't want. So Joan, you're saying, I wish you wouldn't stop slacking off on the job. I'm going to reframe it and say, it sounds like what you want is for them to do their jobs. Trying to take a negative and spin it as a positive. And then there's neutralizing, which is reducing it to those single words of feelings, values, and topics. It sounds like snow removal is important to you, or accessibility, or follow through. Okay, so then these give us kind of 4 levels. So when we talk about summarizing, I'm just saying back everything. I'm almost like a mirror. I'm like a parrot. I'm just saying back what I heard, right? If we're paraphrasing, we're trying to reduce it to just the most important elements of what they said. If we're reframing, we're reducing it to the important elements, and we're turning it around into something that's action-oriented. So it sounds like people don't do their jobs. That's not really action-oriented. It sounds like you want to talk that you want people to do their jobs. That's action-oriented. And then when we are neutralizing, we're reducing it to the important elements, we're being action-oriented, and we're removing the positional statement. So it sounds like follow-through is important to you. All right. And then, so when we put this all together, we get a structured reflection. And this is what I call the formula, because I am a total nerd. Communication does not come naturally to me. I'm not good at English, literature, or humanities. I'm a computer geek, and I like to put things in algorithms. And this, I swear to God, this works. Mediation, personal relationships. You start off with a distancing phrase. So a distancing phrase is, I think what I'm hearing is, or it sounds like, or from what I'm hearing, I think you're saying. And you probably heard me doing this a little bit today. And the importance of the distancing phrase is to, first of all, put literally a little distance between me and what I'm saying. So it helps maintain my neutrality. And it acknowledges that I might be wrong. Then you're going to slip in a feeling or a value or a topic. And then you're going to close with a check-in phrase. Is that right? Did I get that correct? And when you put these all together, you get a structured reflection. So maybe you might say to an employee who's talking about being overwhelmed and doesn't know how to do their work. And so you might say, it sounds like, that's a distinct phrase, you're feeling overwhelmed, feeling, and that clear guidelines are important to you, value, when starting a new project, topic. Is that right? I noticed this is missing the check-in phrase, so it's a mistake in my slide here. Okay. I want to pause now. We have about 10 minutes left, and this is basically where I wanted to get today. We've got a couple exercises to wrap us up, but this is the really important thing I want to do is introduce this notion of structured communication, the skill of speaking to be heard, so speaking in terms of feelings, values, and topics, and then listening to understand. So using these structured reflections to pull out feelings, values, and topics and what other people are saying. So I just want to pause here, for questions or discussions around this notion of structured reflections.
So in some of the work I've done other places, the coach or the person leading all this was part of what they would simply call paraphrasing. I understand you're using paraphrase in a different way, but this was in cognitive coaching. Is that, do you know about that? And is that a fair analogy?
It might be. I'm not familiar. I'm not like super familiar with cognitive coaching, but the reason I've kind of isolated it this way is because a lot of people will teach paraphrasing and they won't reduce it to those one-word feelings, values, and topics. It is so vitally important to remove that positional language, to remove that blame language in order for people to hear you, right? Either when you're listening to understand or when you're speaking to be heard. It's so vitally important to remove that blame language, to remove those positional statements. And people may be doing that when they're paraphrasing, and I don't know exactly how this person was teaching it, but what I find is that people often aren't. They will they'll put that blame language or those positional statements back into the paraphrases. Okay, so maybe you tell us from the way they were teaching it. Do you think they were effectively neutralizing the positional statements?
Completely.
Oh, well, then I would say they're doing all four of these things. Yeah, it really depends on exactly how they're teaching it. Okay, Jillian asks, do you think repeated attempts to spin things in a positive way might make someone that's really angry feel unheard? Yeah, so I want to be clear. We're not exactly spinning it in a positive way, and we are going to acknowledge feelings. So if a person's angry, I'm going to say, it sounds like you're furious, right? You want to be careful, by the way. Someone earlier said, I'm feeling very frustrated. You have to use the word very. Maybe you need a higher level thing. So I don't say it sounds like you're very angry. I'll say it sounds like you're furious. You're acknowledging their fury. Sounds like you're furious and that this thing is really important to you, whatever it is they're talking about. It's a little hard to speak in the abstract. So that is going to make them feel heard. So I'll share a little bit of a personal example. We had just moved to London. We were exhausted. It had been weeks without sleep because some problems in this place we were staying. Me and my wife are arguing for hours. And the argument is about like, you don't want to spend enough time with me. I mean, anybody who's married has probably had this argument before. And we're arguing for hours. She's blaming me, I'm blaming her. And then I remember I'm a mediator. And I give just a reflection. It sounds like you feel, and I literally just listed the things I was hearing her say she was feeling, and it completely changed the conversation. She stopped, the room got quiet, she said, yes. So I think if you're really, and this has been my experience as a mediator, this has been my experience as a person in conflict, if you're truly picking out the feelings and values that they're communicating, then they're going to feel heard because you're actually picking out what's important to them and how they're feeling. Now, you're right, you don't want to always spin it in a positive light. That's not quite the same as action-oriented, right? You want to focus on things you can make a plan about. We're not all like coming up roses here. Okay. To wrap us up in the last couple minutes, let me get back to where we were. I have some events I'm going to read aloud. I'm going to ask you to first pull out some feelings and then pull out some values. So as I'm reading this, I want you to just drop some feelings into the chat. I can't believe after 10 years of working with your company, suddenly I'm just tossed aside. This is why your team is having such financial problems. You don't understand the importance of relationships. Okay? What is this person feeling? Unseen, okay. Disrespected, angry. Instead of saying not valued, we might say undervalued, right? So it's a minor language thing. We want to try to take it away from the things where we not valued sounds like blame language. Undervalued is a feeling. Rejected, yeah. Sad, sure. Okay, what are some values? What's important to this person? Alexandria, I want you to try to reframe what you said you said this was a direct message. Alexandria said to me, rejection due to disloyalty to company. how can we turn that around to make it a value? If someone feels rejected due to disloyalty, what is it that's important to them? If they're feeling rejected due to disloyalty, the value might be loyalty, okay? And then, I'm sorry, I'm having some real computer problems today. I can't seem to see you all and the chat at the same time. There we go. So instead of not being understood, we might be, say, misunderstood. There's really subtle differences, but we want to get the blame language out of there. Okay. So then I'm going to move on. I'm going to give a new vent. Before I read the vent, can I have a volunteer to try to give us a structured reflection to this person? I'm asking for a volunteer before you see the vent. Either a physical hand or a Zoom hand. I could. Anybody? No? I could volunteer. Gail? Oh, okay, there we go. Alexandria, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to give you a vent, and I'm going to ask you to give this person a structured reflection. You can take a minute with it. You can write down, maybe on some notes, write down the feelings, values, and topics. And remember, a structured vent, a structured reflection only needs one of those things. It doesn't have to be huge and complicated. So when I reflected to my wife in the heat of that argument, I just said, it sounds like you're feeling this, this, and this. Is that right? And it completely changed the course of the conversation. Okay. That performance was disgusting. Since when are people allowed to say things like that on stage? I could barely stand to hear it myself. And I took my grandmother with me. It was so embarrassing. I should not have to pay for that. You need to give me a refund, period. Okay. Alexandria, take a minute, jot down some feelings, jot down some values, jot down some topics, and then I'm going to put this formula up on the screen for you. Here's your formula. Give us, you could even write it down first if you want, but it's helpful to say it out loud. Give us a structured reflection.
Let's see. They're certainly angry at what something that was said, so it sounds like disrespect. It sounds disrespectful
Okay.
for what you were talking about in front of public.
Okay.
And is that okay by you if you offend other people? I'm trying to say it in shorter terms.
This is a really overwhelming process. So this is why I wanted to do this first, just all at once. Now I want to ask you, give me just one feeling, value. Well, let's stick with feeling or value. Pick out just one from the vent you see here on the screen. If I say that performance,
yeah.
Well,
Disrespected. Yeah.
I want to stay away from that one, partially because
right.
I think they're not really saying it. It's a gimme, but
All right.
it was so embarrassing. That performance was disgusting. What are they feeling?
Cheated.
Sorry? I lost this.
Cheated.
Or maybe just, how about disgusted or embarrassed? When possible, we want to use the language people are giving us. Okay, so let's say you picked out the feeling of disgusted. Now, I want you to put it in this formula.
Hmm. I don't know. Am I supposed to say I'm feeling disgusted? Or
No, you'll say to the person, so it sounds like you're feeling disgusted. Is that right? It can be that simple. And thank you, Alexandria. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's
we always
okay.
got to go through this first one where it feels so complicated. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple. And that's actually it. That's all I got. Oh, wow, and it's 6 o'clock right on the dot. That's all I got for today. If we had extra time, I was just going to go into some breakout groups and have us vent to each other. But so my closing thoughts are focus on the feelings, values, and topics, and keep it simple. Less words rather than more. I understand some people probably have to leave because it's 1 p.m. I think that's the end of the scheduled time. I don't know if this works for you, Gail. I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes if people want to chat more. I got nothing else on my calendar today.
Yeah.
thank you all so much. Feel free to contact me or refer to the materials Gail emailed around if you want any follow-up.
Thank you so much, Joshua. And I will, I think, Joshua, you said you could share this PowerPoint with us?
Yes.
Yeah, then I'll send that around to you. And then I don't know if y'all had a chance to look at the videos that Joshua sent around. I'll send that link around again. And there's also a real good sort of article that goes into more detail on the key points that Joshua raised today. So our next Lunch and Learn will be on January 5th. That's a Wednesday, of course, at 11:30, and I'll send a notice out about that. Our topic's going to be implicit bias. I want to say I'm happy to hang on here, and people can hang on and ask Joshua some more questions if you like. For those of you that have to go, I want to wish you all a happy, please stay healthy holiday season. And if I don't talk to you later in December, I will see you all in our brand spanking new year of 2022. So thank you all so much for everything that you do. And hop off if you have to, or hang on if you'd like to ask Joshua some more questions. Joan, did you have a question before you have to go? Oops,
Yes,
you're on.
Joshua, I'm just enchanted with what you're presenting to us. I've read everything and watched the videos, and I want to practice because the what you are having us practice right there at the end, I find challenging, and I wonder if you can point us to any kind of prompts for practice material.
Not offhand, but that sounds like something I should have. So I'm gonna make myself a note. I'm supposed to send Gail. I know I have some. I don't have anything like ready-made, but I have honestly just a whole lot of events that I like. That's where I pulled the ones out today. When I send Gail my slides, I'm also going to send some more practice materials.
Great, thank you.
And I just want to really, as you're practicing, keep it simple. Remember, one word for a feeling, one word for a value. Keep it simple. Doesn't have to be complicated. Our tendency is to talk and talk and talk. Less is more.
Okay. Also, I have a second question when everyone else is done.
I think maybe the floor is yours, Joan.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about brunch.
Oh, that's a completely different topic, has nothing to do with communication. So does anybody have any more questions about communication or conflict resolution or anything?
I have just a question. You know, during some mediations, you know, when the different parties are talking and things get really complicated, you know, and trying to keep it simple. And sometimes we get, which is good, long stories, you know, and things just keep getting layered on top of each other. Sometimes I struggle with listening, framing the question at the same time, you know, trying to pick out those key important topics, you know, trying to do it all at once, and then you have to be pretty quick of it. Although some of the folks on this screen are quite skilled at doing that, I must say. But anyway, any hints for that?
Yes. Let me switch to my touch screen here. There is I'm looking down because I'm going to write a little bit. There's a couple note-taking techniques you can use that will help you think. So what we were doing today was I asked you first to dissect this sentence or the vent into the feelings, values, and topics before giving the rant. The structured reflection, and you can do the same thing. So there's a couple different strategies people use for taking notes. I like this one. This is what we do at Community Mediation Maryland. Maybe this is what you do in Michigan too. I don't know. For each person, this would be like a big sheet of paper. I'm going to write 2 big crosses. I'm going to write an F for feelings, a V for value, and a T for topics. And for each person, as they're talking, I'm just writing down what I hear. I'm just listening. I'm just writing down live, real time as they're talking. And I'm taking notes this way because if I only write down these single words of feelings and values, it means that when I go to reflect back to them, all I can give them is the feelings, values. If I don't write down the positional statements, I can't give back the positional statements. So this is just a physical, like, note-taking way of parsing all that complicated stuff. And I left this 4th quadrant open. This is where I might write, like, you know, if I have questions I want to ask, or facts. I stay away from facts, but just other little stuff that I really feel like I have to write down. I am not keeping score of facts. I'm not keeping score of positional statements. So you might worry, well, if I don't write those things down, I'm not going to remember it. But you don't want to have those in your head. All you really want are the feelings, values, and topics. So this is one strategy of note-taking. This is my preferred one, but just in the spirit of transparency, I'll share another one. This is what they use in Chicago, and they do something like this, where they write person 1 on the left, person 2 on the right, and then they write the topics in here in like a list as they're listening. They don't use this structured listening method in Chicago, so when I'm doing it there, I still break it into feelings and values. I don't like this because it's like a score-keeping thing. I got person 1 versus person 2, right? It's just too easy, you know, to get sucked into that positional stuff. But, you know, whatever strategy you use, I think setting up your notes in a careful way helps to offload the cognitive role of parsing to your hand, basically. And then you're literally just reading off your sheet as you're talking. So it sounds like you're feeling this. Is that right? Sounds like this is important to you. Is that right? Yeah.
Thank you.
That sounds great. I heard you say that you don't pay a lot of attention to facts, and I've had people come to a mediation with a bookload of facts saying, you know, I brought in all the information. How do you communicate that that is not important here without being dismissive? I mean, while letting them know you value the work they've gone into, you know, that's a lot of that, you know, you must have really worked hard to put that together, but we're not going to talk about it.
I would never tell them that that's not important. So there's a big distinction. And remember, when in the beginning I said, like, we're going to focus on explaining, you know, being understood. We're going to focus on listening to understand. We're going to acknowledge that persuading exists. We're not going to focus on it because it's going to take care of itself. Same things with the positions and facts. It's not that they're not important, but me as a mediator, I'm not dealing with facts because there may be 2 different versions of the facts. So, and I'm also not reviewing evidence. So I've had people try to hand me something, and I just, you know, kind of keep my hands at my side. I don't take it. I say, okay, so it sounds like that document is really important to you. Tell me what's important to you about it. So I'm just gonna ask them, and that actually acknowledges it's important to them and gets them to start talking about things so that you can pull out the feelings, the values, and then as they're talking, they'll say, okay, so it's, you know, maybe they're like, so first this and first that and then this, and it's like, okay, so it sounds like the timeline of events is really important to you. Is that right? So I'm just reorienting it on the feelings and values. Not that facts aren't important, just that we don't need to kind of really be doing anything extra with them. Yeah.
Great, that's perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else have some questions in these bonus minutes we have from Joshua? Well, thank you so much, Joshua. Really so helpful and really got me thinking and really, really helpful. Very much appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing all your resources. And we may be in touch and maybe see you again.
It was truly
Anything?
my pleasure. I'm sorry it was a bit of a whirlwind, but I kind of wanted to give you all the big picture of how I see communication, and there's only so much we can do in 90 minutes. So I appreciate your attention. And
Well,
also,
thank you.
Linda, I am in love with your cat. It's the cutest thing I've ever seen. My cat won't even sit on my lap, so I'm a little jealous right now. Like a parrot cat thing. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Joan, to just briefly answer your question, it says on my website, ask me about brunch. I'm really into community building. When I was in Chicago, so I'm not a religious person, so if I were religious, I could go to my nearest synagogue, because I was raised Jewish, and find an instant community, people who could help me find a dentist or move my sofa, right? So when I was in Chicago, I had a weekly brunch, and we actually got together every single Sunday for like a year until the pandemic hit. And that was our way of generating some Sunday morning community. There's also a group called Sunday Assembly, which is kind of takes that concept and puts it in a hall with like inspiring speakers and tea and cookies and things afterwards. So that's my kind of life passion, is building community or creating community that's accessible. Because, you know, I just moved to a new city, and in this world, it is really hard to meet people and find community, and I think it's too hard. I think it should be easier. So
was your way of finding the people for brunch was to put in your website or whatever, asking about brunch?
No, it was a little bit of what we call snowball sampling. So I started with a couple people I knew, and we just got together in a restaurant, and it was every couple weeks, then it turned into every week, and then more people started joining until we got too big for the restaurant, so we moved to my flat, and it was actually starting to get too big. I was just about to try to move it to a nearby community center run by some anarchists that just had a space that would let us use, but then the pandemic hit. So like many things in life, it just kind of, people start like, I like this brunch thing, let me bring some new people. So it was just about seeing people regularly, and I like it's easy, right? You don't have to think about it. Sunday, you wake up, you roll out of bed, you head down to, in this case, we all lived in the same neighborhood, so you know we were all within walking distance of each other in northern Chicago. Yeah.
Great, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Okay, I'm going to say good night / good afternoon. Everybody have a lovely day.
Thank you so much, Joshua. And thank you all. So good to see you. Stay healthy. And if I don't see you later this month, I'll see you next year. Thank you.